everyone, welcome to Fearfully Greedy. In today's video, we'll take a look at FICO ROKU restoration hardware and Yihai. well, pronunciation will leave it for someone else. Since the last video, I haven't done any trades, I haven't added any cash, so we are pretty much flat, 35,500 euros. So let's get into it. First one, Fair Isaac Corp. If you are from the US, well, this one is more known everywhere in the world, but mostly in dollars. Fair Isaac is the company that does the FICO score, so they try to measure consumer credit risk. So if you're a lender, they will sell you a score by using data from the three main bureaus for the credit of that consumer and see if the land, like the loan is due or not, or if it's a good loan or not, and also at what price and everything. They have 300 million accounts that have free access to FICO scores. They did, I think, I couldn't find the exact number, but 12 billion scores in the last 12 months. They have three lines of business. So we have the FICO scores, which would be the business to business. They just launched the score 10T, which they keep updating it, so it's more reliable and everything. And then they have a business to consumer, which is my FICO score, which you can pay like a monthly amount, and then you can check more FICO scores, and well, it's yeah, you can check your scores if you need to get some loans to have it ready before that happens. And then they have a software segment, which they make software for lenders and people that need to check credit risk for their customers by data from the three bureaus. Okay, by numbers, FICO scores is 50% of revenues. I couldn't check the business to consumer, so 50% of revenues, 51, 52%. Okay, the balance. They do 84% of the operating income from this business, so it's the much higher. It's the main business and the main margin business. The software is already half of revenues, which was much lower before, but much lower margin compared. How much? So last year they did like 1.3 billion, well 1.5 if you take trailing 12 months, this is 2022, so they are still growing. They grow revenues like at 6% compounded annual growth rate, and net income has compounded much more, which we'll talk in a second why that happened. Gross profit is like 80%, so huge margin. Most of the costs are for the software probably, but we'll see that's the case. Operating income goes down to 40%, net income is 27%. If we take a look at the revenue share by quarter, we can see it's still picking them up. The prices, the scores from 180 to 200 in five quarters, 133, 36 to 170, what it would be software, and this is also software, but this tends to be more fixed, which is like the professional services, which is probably like getting the software to work together with the scores, and yeah, like human capital to do that. What I was saying is that the scores has much higher margin. If we see it's 176 operating income for 200 million of revenues, where the other ones is close to 200, like it's 200, well, it's 196, 97 almost, and but profits operating income is 75 million. So yeah, much lower business, still a very high margin business, like it's like 40%, something like that. In the end, 150 million of income before taxes. This, we know that every quarter this would be the annual contract value for the bookings for the professional services, which are more predictable. The others seem very predictable also, like it's a very constant business. It doesn't seem to have cycles or anything like that. But that would be their business. Like they have this know-how, they have this software, and they can give you these numbers. And in general, they tend to prevent a lot of your losses, like losses from happening. The source for this one was here. It was the business breakdown podcast, and I watched a few episodes. So a few of the picks of the stocks we'll look are from here. First thing, the guidance. Just so you know, they expect to like 500 million net income, but non-GAAP. They This is a great high margin, low cost to client, high benefit business, which is amazing. For the lender, it costs like 60 cents to $3 per score, which they get this stamp, and it's in between the counterparty is pretty much mandatory. It's like a toll or a tax. It's something you prefer. They save $90 billion a year probably by getting this against like crime. I don't know. It's a great setup. It's a great business. No one will not go over it for the cost of this amount. Competition. Isaac FICO is like number one score. This is from 2014. If we would take a look by revenue, probably this is still pretty similar because Vantage Score, which is owned by the three boroughs, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, probably has much lower price and much lower margins, but it's probably bigger than this at this point. And if we take by number of scores a year, the number of scores they give, that's not a very good metric because anyone can give scores at a pretty fast rate. But they did 14 billion scores this year. That's for Vantage Score, and probably FICO did a few less. Of course, FICO is getting paid for them, and the value is higher. But this is something that Vantage Score is starting to get used more and more. Always, from what I know, is that usually if there's a Vantage score, there's pretty sure a FICO score on its side. So it's like a plus, an addition. So they are still the market dominant, but losing market share to the new player. You can get also Vantage Score every month for free on a website. They launched in 2006. 11 years ago, 9 years ago, it was 1 billion scores a year, and now it's 14 billion. So that's growing a lot. There are repurchases, so the shares for FICO are shrinking from 30 million to 25 million shares in 5 periods. Well, this trailing, so yeah, but it's 5 years. They have a 5 million buyback program, which I have no idea the amount that is left to do on that one. I could check, but valuation is so far away. I valuate at 7.4 billion, net debt is 1.7 billion at 24.8 million shares. That gives me $229 per share, which I would say that's fair value. It's currently at 850, so we disagree. Like me and market, we are not seeing eye to eye with this. Why is the difference? The difference is that FICO just started to get some margin increase. Like they have risen their margin. If we take a look at the gross margin that they used to have, let's check margins. Margins, gross margin, operating margin, net profit margin, something like that, from 71 to 79. They had great margins, but they are starting to take more and more higher increased price. The costs are not much higher just because you price it higher. So they are getting much. If you see operating margin, it has doubled. So that's probably why the price doesn't make that much sense compared to my price. But the thing is that the top line revenues are growing 6% a year, something like that, with 6% a year. So they are not growing a lot. So there's a cap to how much margin you can take, and there's a free guy, free competitor that doesn't need to make profit, and it's giving scores, and it's from the three boroughs. So I think in the future they might start to find some resistance as they keep increasing prices. Maybe I'm wrong and I don't understand what a huge power FICO has. I think it has a lot of power. That's why they can have this huge business with just giving scores, running some numbers through a platform. But I don't think it's unbreakable. So that's my price. If you like it, take a look. I think it's a great, very good quality company. I would say like an 8. Yeah, it seems fair. 230. I think it's in price. We just don't agree. Let's take a look at Roku. This for sure you will mostly only know if you are in the US. Roku, they make TV software and hardware, so they do like the operating system for your smart TV. Let's take a look what they do. They will make these they will make a look at they will make these sticks and players, and they also are starting to make TVs. The smart home, it's a tiny thing that they are also doing. And if you're making TVs, they also freelance their operating system and they make your software for you if you want, which is also part of their business. Um, they are also benefiting a lot from. They are like an aggregator, so you tell which channels you would like to do, and you will cut a big amount of your. If you compare to cable, you will cut a lot of money, and in a moment in time where the I don't know the median household is getting squeezed quite a bit everywhere in the world and in the US also. These companies that bring a better service and cost cutting, I think they have a place to be. The numbers, if we want to see what is what, they differentiate two segments: platform and devices. 87% of revenue is platform, 13 devices. They sell platform at 50% gross profit, so at 50% margin, and devices at break even. That's on a gross amount. On a net income, if we saw, they pretty much also break even or lose money, and they are losing more and more money on the last quarters. It's increasing. Last quarter 2022 they lost 250 million, 212 on the first quarter of 23, 120 on the second quarter of 23. I don't know. They probably will stop the bleeding soon. They have some cash in the balance sheet, but still, it's there. I added this company to this video because I think the interaction between the TV, the viewer, the streamer platform, the content, the streaming platform, and everyone involved, I think it's pretty cool that a company like this exists, and why. First thing, on Roku TV, the Roku channel, it's growing. So not the Roku operating system, which is also growing, but their content, the thing they manage, and the thing they make some entertainment for people. And if you see, it's close to HBO Max viewership. That's May 2023. It's a third of Hulu. It's, I don't know, seventh of Netflix. So it's not nothing. So I think that has a good value, something to know. Okay. Then active accounts moved from 27 million to 70 million in the last 5 years, and annual revenue per user has more than doubled in the same amount. So there was a huge increase in 2021. Now it's more flattish. Probably this will keep increasing more in line, or they will just keep growing units. Down they are 73 million active accounts. That's mostly all in the US. They are a big player in the US, but not elsewhere. So I don't know if saturated, but they are getting close, like 70 million households. It's quite a lot. They are running the business at break even or losing money because they think they are trying to conquer like this virgin land that they are cutting like the cable, and they can get in between before someone else does this also. If we see the household that were paying, so the households that were paying has gone down from 2000. Well, they think it will go down. Sorry, this is in the future, from 52% to 42%, and they want to get some of those clients in. They have 64% of the share of US TV revenue. So revenues, these by revenues, they are probably monetizing more than other players in this price, but probably everyone is trying to get as much revenue as possible. This from 2020, so this is 2022, this is 2020. If we see this worldwide, and this would be streaming devices. Okay, Roku would be the fourth at 6%. Fire TV is also 6%. So if we compare the world is more scattered. Disney is by Samsung. WebOS would be like a browser kind of developed device. Chromecast, Google Cast is only 3%. Yeah, 3%. If we take a look here by regions, I think this graph is great. Credit to Conviva. In North America, Roku is number one. Like have 37% share of the brick screen. I couldn't get if that was minutes, like time, or I think time, like how much time or how many number of installations. I don't know, but if you see everywhere else, Roku is barely a player in Europe and not a player anywhere else. In Asia, is not even a player. In Europe, which is where I am, a lot of people have the Chromecast, so it's there. And then the Fire Stick, yeah, it's also a big thing here. The biggest is Samsung TV. So yeah, most of the more modern TVs they come with it installed, and you don't need to put a stick in it. I would already say that I will pass on this idea because I have no idea who will win this battle between all these players and the new ones to come. And so I have no interest in getting any dock in this race. So for me, just by this, it's a pass. But we'll take a further look. I would like to point a bit on the forces that are happening here within Roku. We have the streaming platforms, then Roku in between to enable your TV so you can watch that TV. Okay, so the TV manufacturer, it makes the hardware that you watch, and Roku also makes some of that. But without the software, for them it's very hard to integrate all these services, which is what you want. You want like the streaming services. So you have to get, everyone has a playing hand and a force here involved. Roku, for the TV manufacturers, one TV manufacturer, for them it's very costly to develop their operating system for each of their devices, where Roku can come in and with their know-how and their human capital, they can do that very easy. So that's where it comes in, a lower cost. At the end, it's a lower cost, and also the TV doesn't get any revenue or ad share from these people, only the hardware selling. And that just, maybe if they had enough scale like Samsung, they could do it, but if not, it's not financially feasible. Then Netflix wants eyeballs, and either you go on the website on your computer and you log into the Netflix account, or if you're in the TV doesn't have like a hardware to run a lot of these things, so that's where Roku or the TV like Fire Stick or Chromecast would come in. So that's a bit the idea. Then Netflix is willing to share some of its advertisement or subscription revenue with Roku just to enable all these devices for them. In the future, I said I don't know how the forces will end up, but that's what's happening. For at the one for HBO, it's worth it to pay Roku some to get in the devices that are run by Roku, because Roku has a lot of eyeballs by the TVs it enables. Maybe I said nothing in a long time, but yeah. Valuation, they could be profitable today, sure, but at what margins, I don't know. Maybe 25% earnings before taxes, maybe, and that would put them at $700 million as of today. That puts them at 10 times earnings if they had the 25% earnings, which it's a bit stretch. So those are extra fake. Who says that if they start to take profit, they won't lose it all in the US also? Like if they get a bit too greedy to get more margin, maybe they don't develop their app too much. They will next player will come in and take everything, take the market. So yeah, it's a virgin kind of land, and everyone is running for it. So for me, the breaking point is business, technology, the end game, too unknown. I pass on this one. One thing is for sure, the current ecosystem benefits the US, so Roku in the US, and not elsewhere. So elsewhere they are not growing. In the US they are growing a lot. That's probably for the setup that we had for the distribution channel that they had. If I'm not mistaken, Roku comes from like a spin-off from Netflix, and they are very US centric. So maybe that's what happened. And the first mover has a lot, like has a big step. They were not the first mover, like Apple TV and Google, I think they were earlier, so they did something right for sure, but I cannot predict. Making TVs also, what I will say is that the US for them is pretty much probably saturated, and at some point, if it's totally saturated, if they want to keep growing profits, they will have to take profit, take margin, and that margin will maybe enable someone else to come in. Making TVs, which probably is what they are trying to get revenues to keep growing, it's a much worse business than what they do now. Like the current Roku business is a great business. So I don't think that exit is there either, because they're maybe they get high revenues, but the margins will be much lower. Okay, so that's Roku. I won't value. For me, it's not. It's a no go. This one. Okay. Then restoration hardware. These they operate in the US and in the UK. And restoration hardware, I spend a bit more time on this one. They are, if you see the story, they were doing 2.5 billion in 2019. 2022 was their peak, 3.7 billion, and since then it has slowly grown down. Trailing 12 months it's down. They have grown revenue at 5% CAR, but net income has grown higher. What is RH? So what is RH? They are a home furniture retailer with like a unique kind of concept. It's like the old galleries, like the old furniture stores that you go there, you order a couch and it will get to your home later on. It's not like IKEA, but is the uniqueness is how beautiful these locations are. They are trying to get into the luxury segment.
Holded es un software de gestión en la nube óptimo para pequeñas empresas, fácil de implementar y a un coste asequible.
To a space of harmony and hospitality. When you walk through those doors, everything's calm.
It makes everyone pause when you experience it to consider new things.
They are also starting to put bars and restaurants in these locations to keep driving traffic. It's not just looking at the furniture, you also go there to have a cocktail, to have a lunch, something like that. They are also starting to have like hotels or guest homes there.
Think about the way we live. Think about
with each idea unfolding, barista bar. Time we've embedded an entire interior design firm into the retail experience. A 6-story integrated art exhibit called New York Night by Alison Berger.
Conceptually, it's this idea of being caught in the rain in New York. It is undeniable.
From indoors.
Okay, well, you get the idea. Okay, so pretty places that they show you their furniture, and they are using the place for more stuff. And then you can also order online. Well, you can get the source book also there. They interact they also work with a lot of interiorists, like designers, home designers. I don't know how you call that, but yeah, they have many lines. So they have a very, as they call it, a very horizontal kind of inventory more than a vertical. So they don't have so many of one unit, but they have many different styles and units. Different books that show for different kind of houses, for the beach house, for the outdoor, for the contemporary. So they try to get on the luxury segment. Okay, so that's the idea. They have 81 locations. They come from a previous, so as every company. So they were founded on, well, they say 2011, but that's because they they got acquired, they went private. There's been a story to this. We'll get into that in a second, okay? But 81 locations, the Waterworks showrooms, this is going down. The new galleries is what it's all at. What they are doing is very big, impressive places, so high-end or luxury, higher-end clients, you could say, people that are willing to spend thousands and thousands of dollars into furniture, they are going there. Their location is mostly US, a bit on Canada, one in London. That's it, okay? 81 locations. The one in London is a Waterworks showroom, so probably not their main, not top of mind for them, okay? And the square footage is from the fulfillment centers. So we can see that instead of having to stock shelves and stock back rooms, so you can take your couches with you like in IKEA, what they do is they only sell it to you and it will get to your door in a few weeks or month. Okay, numbers. Net revenues, 3.6 billion. Gross profit is half of that, so 50% margin. Operating income is 20% margin. It used to be a bit more. Probably they fell a bit the inflation, and also as revenues have been going down, the expenses are a bit shared between less amount. Net income was half a billion, so 15% net income, 18% last year, and we don't even have the previous year, so it was like 10%. Okay, but 3.6 billion revenues. Half of that is gross profit, fifth of that is income from operations, and they have still a good net income. Okay, so it's a profitable company. That's good. Okay, it's a good start. Okay, and we understand what they do. They have these galleries. You order online, mostly in the US. That's it. A bit in Canada. The source is also from the business breakdowns. I like this one a lot. The explanation. Okay, what happened is the company was founded in 1979 when the founder was trying to restore like an old house, and he couldn't find something that would go with it, so he founded this company. They started to have more and more stores, but it was more like not high end. It was more like the usual furniture store. More and more as it has changed hands a few times. If you see in 2001, it was $370 million in shares in sales. The company has seen many phases since those times. In the recent venture into the high-end gallery model, a bit more centralized delivery to your homes, nothing to pick up. That's what they say. We believe that there are those with taste and no scale, and those with scale and no taste. The idea of scaling taste is large and far-reaching. Our goal to position RH as the arbiter of taste for the home has proven to be both disruptive and lucrative, as we continue our quest to build the most admired brand in the world. High aspirations, don't we all? Okay, it's luxury potential. So here I spent a bit more time. I took revenues, gross margin, operating income, and net margin for a few of furniture kind of stores, furniture retailers, and then Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and Kering. Okay. Revenues, if we see they are 3 billion, IKEA is at 27 billion. Of course, this is not high end, and of course, it's a very different model, but I think it's good to see. Then we have Last Boy, which is also in the US, ASEC company, which ASEC is also in the US. Correct? Yes, also in the US. Harvey Norman. This is in Australia. Okay, that was the one. Miller Knoll, which was a new acquisition, but if you see, They also, yeah, they have this Herman Miller shirts. Do you know that these ones? Yeah, it's yeah, pretty famous. HNI. Okay, William Sonoma and Roche Bobois, which is a French small company but very high margins, like very high end. Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and Kering. If we see gross margin, number ones would be Kering, and then Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. Then we have Roche Bobois, and next up we have already RH. So they are pretty high on the gross margin amount. So they have pretty good margins. Operating income, they are even higher because they would be, well, also number 4 behind Harvey Norman. But the Harvey Norman accounting, by being in Australia, I don't know, I find it a bit weird that they get such little. I don't know. I don't know about this accounting because net margin is also very high, so little taxes. I don't know, but well, whatever. We are not analyzing Harvey Norman, but yeah, operating income is pretty good for a furniture seller, and net margin is pretty much also on top. Like we have the Harvey Norman, but then we have Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, Kering, and then it's them pretty much. Okay, so the thinking is, could they become like these ones? Could they have this margin? And probably yes. Like they just need to get to this level of prestige. They are climbing the mountain. That's what they say. So possible, yes. It's just very tough. Like a lot of people are trying to get to this level, like on the Gucci's and Pradas and well, we checked Kering last week, so I don't know. It's hard to get there. Ad spend. I When I say traditional, I mean more like IKEA or like the one that you can also pick stuff. But there's a lot of this in Spain. But yeah, the gallery model, what the way they do it, they have these expensive locations. They also have a bit more extra last mile cost because you're doing all the last mile deliveries. You get more draw from non-buyers, which can be a cost or not. With the added services, maybe it's less of a cost and more of income. And they also have the additional income from these amenities, this extra stuff. IKEA, they have the bad part that they have to the discount or lower price to draw people in. Like if it was on lower prices and you could get it shipped to your home, maybe you wouldn't. Well, you want to see the stuff, but there's a cost to the model of IKEA in lower and discounted prices for sure. There are these extra restocking costs because if you need these many locations close to your everyone that then they can pick it up and take it home, there are a lot of restocking costs. There's this extra cost for the more capillary distribution, so there are more endpoints where people can pick up, where the RH can have more centralized. They have much. We saw it was like, how many was it? I don't know, like 10 fulfillment centers. So with 10 they serve all these customers. Where IKEA has, I don't know, so many. I wanted to also check ad spend. Some of these I couldn't find, but if you see they have the lowest ad spend, like what is advertisement line. So by doing these extravaganza things, they are drawing eyeballs without having to spend just on commercials, which I think is a nice move. Like there's some ad benefit here. If you see Kering and Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, they are spending over 10% of their ridiculous revenues, well, because it's so huge, on advertisement marketing, compensating people for recommending stuff, that kind of stuff. Okay, so there's some benefit to this extravaganza gallery model. The logistic efficiency, I just couldn't check. Like no one is showing none of that. How could we check? The thing is, I was gonna compare gross margin to operating income margin because in some other business, in the operating income margin selling expenses, some of that shipping would go there. Like for example, Carvana, some of that goes there, but not here. So I don't know. I couldn't check much. But if we see if gross margin is very big, I think it's a pretty efficient business. Of course, they have higher prices because they have more taste or higher quality products or a brand. So it's just very hard to compare if it's more logistically sound or not. But if we compare both ends, like IKEA is a very profitable business, and still they have a very low gross margin. I don't know. But yeah, oops. If you check here, all logistic costs associated with shipping product to customers are in the gross margin. Okay, next up, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Hermes can be damaged, can be changed, but it's very hard to do so. Getting there is very tough. It's a long road. Very few people make it, and honestly, is not only up to the company or the person. Like something has to align for you to become a Gucci or for you to become a Louis Vuitton. That's why I love the economic models, like the ones that they do something different and it's a direct economic benefit, so their margin can go lower than the competition and they will kill them. This is not that, okay? So it is a taste thing, which I don't know. it's just hard to value. This business is also a bit unstable. It shows promise, but very likely it could be like half of the current revenues or double the current revenues in 5 years. I cannot tell. For me, that's a pass. I would price it roughly at $170 per share. It's worth like 6.6 billion, but it has like 3 billion of debt. So debt is also pretty big. Balance sheet is not looking that great. I don't think they will go broke. Like the current proportion of that debt is like the current liabilities to current assets is, and their cash flow is too high still. Like they won't have a problem, but that debt is a drag on them. So just so you know, it has good debt. That has moved from 2.4 billion. Well, this long-term debt from half a billion to 2.5 in 5 years. So debt is getting pretty high. The breaking point, valuation, balance sheet. Yeah, that's maybe my breaking point. Current price 213. I said 170. Under 130, I would take a look. I like it. I think there's something here. I think it's interesting, but it's also unproven. So if you like it, go deeper into this one. The final one is a bit of spice, something a bit different. It's Yihai International Holdings. This is a company that I did some research like 2 years ago, and it looked great at the time. I'm happy I didn't invest because if you see here what happened, look, I took a look at probably in 2021. And it was like 100 Hong Kong dollars, and now it's 13. So that's good. This company, they make condiments, so they make condiments for soup, and it's I don't know. For me, it seems it's a very interesting one. They make this stuff, so they make these prepared packages, but they also make the sauce, the one that is dried. They do that, and this finished thing that you can just add boiling water into it. They sell mostly to China, so only less than 10% is abroad, so almost everything in China. To compare, they did 2.6 billion RMB. So if they did 350 million, this is in 6 months. In total, this is already in dollars. They did $800 million in revenues. Okay, they have $250 million in cash, so they are net cash, and it's a company that was growing so much. Like if we can compare here, revenues would be 2.6, 1.8 would be cost of sales. So the gross margin is like not the same as we were checking before, but still pretty good, like 30 gross margin, 20 operating income, 13 net profit. Okay, something like that. And it's, if you want to see the growth profile, look, they were doing 2.6 billion, and in 4 years they were doing more than double that stuff. Okay, so pretty ridiculous growth. And since then, in the last 2 years, it has stalled. Okay, also the margin has contracted. Revenue slowed down after incredible growth. That's a bit the story for this stock. Incredible growth until it wasn't there. Like these valuations, that's what happens if you are buying at 60 times P. Well, you bet it should keep growing, or you will be not in a great position. The margin has contracted, probably by inflation kind of cost, 38% to 31%. That's gross profit. Operating income 25% to 20%. Net profit margin 19% to 13%. Free cash flow has moved a bit more up and down, but it's around 15%, 12% at the moment. Okay, so it's still a cash cow. It still produces a lot, but it's not what people thought. So it's not what people thought. It has told. Probably it will keep growing. I'm sure it's in 10 years it's greater. It's bigger than this because it's a very efficient business. From what I looked the previous time, it was a very efficient business. It looked ridiculous. You were blindsided by just the growth, but it's still a great business. And the returns to shareholders, they are paying at on like a 1% dividend, which is like 20% payout. And I think they will stay with that. Only take invest the rest, like try to get as much profit as they can. But shares are pretty flat, so shares are growing slightly by compensation. So they are paying some in shares. There's always the channel risk in the share structure. Like, as you know, this would be a company that is in the Cayman Islands. It's a limited liability. Of course, this seems pretty solid, but I don't know. There's always that factor. Like the ownership's not structure, but the ownership entities that we have in Europe or in the US or in other parts of the world, even in South America, are different. Like here is like they have to make an entity that owns that entity, and who says the Chinese party cannot come and say no? Okay, that could happen anywhere, so I have nothing against like China, but it's always, if I can't find these returns somewhere else, I will take those returns somewhere else. So the sales evolution, if we see in 2015, which is when they got it's a spin-off from another company, they were doing mostly related, so their own product, like it was over 50%, like it was 53, 55%. Then operating income was 19% at the time, and honestly, I think the switch to more third party, it was like a positive thing. Like if we take a look until the pandemic, they moved from half to 3/4 third party, and operating income moved like, I don't know, you could say 20%. Like it's not bad. It's not 20%, but maybe 15%. So not bad. And this is the average selling price per kilo. This is in Chinese yuans. But if you see, the price was going up until 2020. Well, it was highest in 2018, then some discounts, then a bit higher, then much lower in 21, maybe to get volumes back, and now it's starting to creep up again. Okay, just some evolution. So price per kilo has gone down slightly or flattish. Operating income margin was going up, and now it's went down, probably by inflation pressures. Valuation. So what do we think? I think this company is worth like 21 billion yuans. Net cash is 2 billion. Price per share, I would say, is 23 yuans. Okay, can we find it? This is in Hong Kong dollars. So I would say Hong Kong dollars, sorry. Well, it's pretty much the same. I don't I don't know all the exchanges in the world, but I knew it was pretty much the same. But yeah, 10% move. So it should be a bit less, not the, I'd say 23 CNYs. So if it was 23, we could say so. Valuation, I think it's worth like 21 billion yuans. Net cash is 2 billion. Price per share would be 23 yuans or 25 Hong Kong dollars. If we compare to like the current price, it's 13.4. So the valuation is there. Okay, the valuation is pretty much there. So region valuation, the region is always pushing me away. Like some of the companies like this, maybe not updated, but there are some companies in my portfolio which I think are better investments than having to go to this. But it's pretty much there. Like if it went under 12, I might think about it. Okay, well, that's all I had for today. So thank you for watching. I will bring you a few more picks next week if I'm consistent with this now. Well, thank you for watching. Be safe. Take care.